What's going on, guys? This is Evan, the Xeno Gears enthusiast, putting up a demolition video while I was on my quest to get Ninja Pro. This gameplay video isn't going to really talk about Black Ops at all, or at least very little. I instead am going to talk about some things I observed in my educational experience that really bother me. So I want to talk about that for a bit. This will be sort of a commentary on maybe the educational system as a whole, and these are just my views, and I'm not an expert on higher education, but I do have a bachelor's degree, so I did go to college for 4 years. For those of you who are curious, I graduated with a 3.45 GPA, so not great, but way above the gender average, I suppose. So hey, it can't be that bad, right? If you guys could take the time to rate, comment, and subscribe, maybe you'll want to wait till the end of the video to decide if you like the content. For those of you who've been sticking with the channel for a while, I appreciate it as always. And if this is your first time watching it, if you take the time to rate, that'd be great. I'm hoping to build sort of a base of people that like my content, that want to comment on what I say, so I can get some feedback. So if you could help me out with that, it'd be great. But getting into the actual this off-topic commentary here, off-topic from Black Ops or Call of Duty in general. So college. I assume most people know the basics, ins and outs of college. I don't drink, and this is not a sort of an anti-drinking commentary, or I'm a nerd dork commentary. This is sort of a commentary on all kinds of people. Oh, that guy! I didn't see that guy. But when I was in college, I genuinely wanted an education. In that, I wasn't really real concerned with what I necessarily got on my grades. I mean, of course, wanted to excel academically. I wanted to do well, but I'm a psychology major, and I knew the job prospects probably wouldn't be that great anyway unless I got a master's. And my grades are good enough to get me into master's programs, provided I bring up my GRE score, which we're not even going to talk about. And I also learned that standardized testing, I've done this for some time, standardized testing is not exactly the most accurate way to judge intellect, but it does reflect a number of facets. For those of you that are down on the ACT or thinking of going to college or down on the GRE, I understand what you're saying. I do, especially because I didn't do that well on either, and I don't feel stupid. At the same time, I have to acknowledge that statistically, at least on the ACT, I don't know about the GRE, on the ACT, people that do well on the ACT typically do alright in college, and at least the ACT is a predictor of score in college. Not a perfect predictor, but pretty reasonable, so I figured I'd share that with you guys. But I want to talk about basically two kinds of people I ran into at college. I mean, I could lump everyone into these two categories, really, because it's definitely like an either or, commit to one thing. But what are you going to college for? If you're thinking of going to college, or what did you go to college for? I don't mean choice of major or intended career path. What I mean is, and I also don't mean, did you intend to party? Do you not intend to party? None of that really has anything to do with what I'm saying here. It's more of a conceptual is, do you want an education or do you want a job? Because they're not the same thing, and one does not necessarily lead to the other. Like, I am a psychology and social political studies major, and I also have a minor in religion and philosophy. None of these are known for opening a lot of lucrative job opportunities for you. They don't pay that much, and they don't necessarily take you that far. Now, I enjoyed them, and I could talk at length about politics, psychology. I have retained a great deal of what was taught to me. Regardless of my GPA, test scores, I can sit down with someone and have an intellectual conversation about these topics. In fact, I'd love to do so. I love intellectual discussion, period. I think the Socratic method, was it pioneered by Socrates, was, fantastic. Maybe he should have been a bit more focused, but whatever, it's not a Socrates commentary necessarily. More to the point, I just met a lot of people in college that were only interested in two things that were sort of went hand in hand: a job and applied knowledge. And why are you in college? I'm in college so I can get a better job and make more money, so I can get to a higher echelon in life, so I can get more things I want. All these are reasonable, and I wouldn't fault anyone for wanting them. I mean, these are things I expected out of my education. But beyond that, I expected to learn. I hear students now that are graduating or have graduated, some of my friends or people from other school, people I've met that are in the workforce now, they complain that their school didn't necessarily help them find a job, or that their school just didn't adequately prepare them for the standardized testing they faced. And I can appreciate those sentiments. I mean, you probably paid a great deal of money for your education, particularly in the United States, if that's where you're watching this video from. And, I can speak personally. I went to a small private institution with a very high tuition and not a whole lot of financial aid. I don't regret it for a second because I believe my education there was excellent. I know that I learned and I am far more knowledgeable than I was before. But you have to ask yourself, like, what do I want from college? If you want a job, you're not really too concerned about your educational level, maybe a trade profession or an educational, a 2-year community college. 2-year community college kind of get like, I don't know, like a raw deal where people talk down on them. I have a lot of respect for community colleges. At one time I considered going to one, in that they will prepare you for a job. I mean, they can't guarantee you a job, especially with the economy the way it is and some of the changes in the United States, or just in the world in general. Everyone's going to have a hard time guaranteeing you a job short of an Ivy League placement or some kind of upper echelon of education, but, frankly, if you're just looking for a job and you're not really necessarily in it, or the applied knowledge, you're not really in it for theoretical knowledge or, just in it for application, then the 2-year community is probably the way to go, or not a college track period. And college graduates are not always guaranteed to make a higher wage. I mean, you see statistics like that, but you have to understand, oh, look at this nice little triple spray here. You have to keep in mind what statistics are derived from. It's an average, so obviously someone who did not go to college probably didn't go to high school. So if it's just an overall average of people going to college making more money, yeah, I would expect. I mean, they went to high school at least. And there's just a lot of factors that sort of pull that average up. Like if you're a doctor, you went to college and you went beyond, Things like, doctors make a lot of money, lawyers make a lot of money. There's all sorts of things affecting these statistical averages, and they don't necessarily reflect the job you're likely to get out of college. You might want to look at the statistics that come directly from the majors you're considering, and look at the required master's tracking. Before you go to college, or if you're in college now, some quick pieces of advice. Understand that the GRE is harder than you think it is, even if you're intellectual, even if you're an academic. It's harder than you think it is. Furthermore, understand that many programs that quote-unquote pay well with a higher level of education. So you might have to go beyond, a bachelor's and get a master's, and that's more money. Think about how much money you're going to have. Think about your financial aid. Check with your financial aid. Go to a school you can afford. At this point, I'd say almost everyone should. I didn't, unfortunately, but almost everyone should start at a small community college just to get your general eds done, because it's probably cheaper and you can live at home. If you're trying to get away from your parents, you don't necessarily have to go to college to do it. And once again, reflect on what you want out of your college experience. I personally think some of the people I know, who probably aren't my friends necessarily, but there are people I know, and I don't want to talk down on them, but this is going to sound derogatory. They're idiots. I mean, they went to college for 4 years. Frankly, they learned very little. They just sort of wanted a diploma to apply for jobs that listed, bachelor's degree required. They didn't learn anything in their general education classes. In fact, they spent their 4 years complaining about having to take general education, and that liberal arts was stupid. Everything should have been applied. Everything should have just been, this applies directly to my job. If that's what you like, you probably would have preferred the guild system. Apprentice under someone and learn. Those kind of things still exist today. And I'm trying to jump this tack insertion. But I went to college in pursuit of knowledge. I know that sounds a little bit intrinsic and maybe a little intangible for someone who's looking for just more money. But I knew that going to college wouldn't necessarily promise me more money. I knew many jobs that didn't require an education paid very well. Some of the jobs with an education did pay very well, but they typically involved things I wasn't going to specialize in, or took 10 years to do and took a lot of dedication that probably required, a personal liking that was more than chasing bank. If all you're going to school for is just so you can get a piece of paper, I don't think you should be in school. I know that sounds rotten, but a good professor is not teaching towards a piece of paper. They're teaching you for your knowledge. They're teaching to make you more intellectual. And if you're going to teach, furthermore, that shouldn't be your logic. You should care about your knowledge. Now, I think a healthy combination is what's important. You have to value the knowledge you receive and your education. You should also want a job. I want a job right now despite being unemployed, and the prospects aren't looking good. But by God, I want a job. That's why I'm considering a master's degree, and I'm hoping to get an assistantship here soon. God willing, please. But I guess that's my point. And I could talk at length, maybe for hours, about this and the different statistics and things I've observed. But this is a 10-minute video. It's probably unfair to revisit this topic unless you guys are interested in it. But Honestly, think about what you want. I can't describe the number of people I met in college who constantly, why do I have to take these general education courses? Why do I have to take these math courses, these science courses? I'm never going to use them in life. Okay, frankly, I suck really bad at math. I suck at a lot of things. I'm not a hyper-academic. At all. People seem to characterize me as such when I talk about things like this. Like, oh, well, you're just, you're a nerd. You're a Call of Duty nerd. Well, yeah, that may be. But, that doesn't mean that's sort of my calling. I guess this is sort of a lash out against the thought process I recall that I don't care about what I know, what I learn. I just want applied skills, no general education. That's what they made community college for. Go there. It's designed for you. These schools want you. Please go there. Do not go to a liberal arts education if you don't give a crap about the liberal arts element and you don't give a crap about just education in general. Just don't. You won't be happy there. You'll spend every day counting the days until you graduate. And that's a lousy experience. Alright guys, thanks for watching.